It costs more, but I think we have more control, and American workers and American engineers who run these plants are, the best in the world. So it's the right thing to do for the country. It's the right thing for our company.
Major Pharma CEO sounding the alarm on the U.S.'s deadly dependence on Chinese-made drugs and backing President Trump's plan to bring that to an end. Right now, 75% of our essential medications are imported, most coming from China or India. And India gets 80% of its drug ingredients from China. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means that any supply chain disruption, something like a global pandemic, I remember one of those, and an invasion of Taiwan, for example, those could be fatal. Trump administration saying this is a national security issue, and it is hoping the tariffs on Chinese pharmaceuticals could reestablish stockpiles and bring drug manufacturing back home where we can control it. David, is that possible? Can we do that? Bringing stuff back home is a great idea. Everybody loves it. We just went through a pandemic, and we said, we got to do more of this.
There's some things we can't bring back home. There's some things that we shouldn't bring back home because they can be done cheaper elsewhere, and I still believe in comparative advantage. Anything of critical infrastructure, national security, I not only want to bring back home, I want to bring back home tomorrow. But this makes me anti-tariff, not pro-tariff. Because what kind of argument is it that this must be done for national security unless you pay us 20%? Then national security doesn't matter. How does getting paid for something dangerous make it less dangerous? It's an incoherent argument. The tariff does not help us. If this is a part of critical infrastructure, safety, national security, the issue of slave labor, I don't want to get paid for slave labor. I don't want us to use slave labor. So let's have moral clarity and economic clarity in our argument.
Well, that is the issue, that slave labor in some cases have resulted in drugs that are bad stuff, and it hurts some people. You guys are younger, the two of you, and don't need to rely on a lot of drugs. But there are other people on this panel that may,
I still worry about it. I worry about it, and I think back to the mid-2000s when China was sending poison pet food over here. We had a cat that died from it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and I think about those ingredients coming from China that are in critical drugs. It's not just a supply chain issue, but it's a safety issue. There are no standards there. So what are the ingredients that they're using? What is the quality? What goes on in the factories? A lot of things to think about. David, I just want to go to your point, and I'm not arguing with you here, but I am going to push back a little and just say, I hear you on the incoherent argument, but that's if you're looking at it in terms of black and white, that a tariff is being imposed and then all of a sudden, you don't necessarily care about national security. If Trump was going into this using tariffs just as that negotiating tool, I still believe that he was, then it's a little bit different, that tariffs get people to the table to talk. Tariffs get you to have conversations that can make things better, even if not 100% better, maybe a little bit better. And
I think you're making a very different argument than the one the administration's made, where tariffs are going to make us rich. We're going to get 600.
I'm not making that argument. So definitely not.
So that argument, I think, is in contradiction to the one you're making. If all of this is going to lead to a negotiation of different things, then all of it is moot, because we're going to find out in the end. Ultimately, I am a stickler on this national security issue. I don't want any dependency on a communist country of anything of critical infrastructure. Now, on the safety standards they have there, let's be clear, we have huge safety standards here. When it's imported, it doesn't just come off a box and go on our shelves. And stuff can break down, and stuff breaks down domestically, too. But China's either low or high safety standards.
But it
doesn't end there. There's still a safety inspection.
When things are imported into the country, they're not taking them apart. They're not taking pills or food apart and breaking down to make sure that the ingredients are the right formulas.
I mean, we're not talking about 0.0001% of even allegations of drugs that have been doing damage to America. We would know because people would be getting sick and dying.
And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if they don't really have standards when it comes to what they're doing, that's a potential. It's certainly a possibility. I mean, I look at products coming across from China, for example, ceramics that you heat up, and I've had health issues, so I'm really sensitive to this. And I just think about it because they're not going to tell you what is in the material.
All of those safety-related issues, Jackie, I'm on your side. I believe you have reasons you think about it. Other consumers have reasons they think about it. My only issue is I just don't need the White House to think about it for me. I believe individuals need to make those decisions.
Jeff, you invoked my name as
so
one
yes,
who's more
you're
likely
going to need to respond.
Just for the record.
2 minutes for response.
Just for the record, I haven't taken any pharmaceuticals, including aspirin, for the past 4 years because of my saintly wife, Martha Cecilia. God bless you, Martha Cecilia.
Because she takes such good care of you.
Because she gives me supplements from Dr. Mercola, free advertising, and other. We
Healthy
eat
food.
very healthy food. I have lentil soup that I bring in every. So I think, bottom line is, I think Americans and people all over the world are far too accustomed to dropping a pill for anything that ails them. So get off those pharmaceuticals as much. Now, having said that, to have 80% of the active ingredients in generic drugs come from China, come from the country that spread the worst pandemic since the Spanish flu, and probably even worse than that in many ways when you consider the effects of the vaccines, et cetera, that's insanity. That is insanity. We have to get the raw materials and the finished products back in this country, or in a country that's not our enemy and that spread the pandemic.
But here's the question. Here's the other question on it, and that's dollars. Can we do that and keep costs down? Now, I know, pills these days, if you're on a drug plan, it costs $5, and if you're not on a drug plan, it costs $100, $200. It's kind of crazy, and that's a whole other issue. But can we do it cheaply enough, do you think, Lydia, in this country to where people can afford drugs?
Well, you're right. That gets into the whole other issue about insurance and Medicare costs as well, which is a whole other can of worms. But we did hear from the CEO of Eli Lilly this morning with that great interview with Maria Bartiromo. I mean, and he talked about his commitment to boosting manufacturing here in the United States. So there are big companies that are committed to this. And just to kind of put a finer point on this, a lot of my reporting here, a fair amount of my reporting since I've been with the network, has been on this very topic. And I mean, all the points have already been made by Jackie and you, David, about, where our drugs are coming from, India and China. And it's not just contamination issues. Sometimes it's just a shortage in the supply chain. A manufacturing plant goes down. Yeah. I can't tell you the number of patients that I've spoken to that have been treated with breast cancer or other types of cancers that saw disruption, or even the hospitals.
And they couldn't get their
drugs. They couldn't get their drugs, and they were worried, or they're having to substitute out for another drug, maybe in the same drug family, but it's not the preferred drug of choice. Just the fact that consumers in this country are being forced to try to make those compromises because the top-notch drug is not immediately available, I think we can all agree is not what we want in America. The other part about it is just like the medical supplies, just basic IVs. Do you remember that shortage
during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Sure.
Those were all coming from China.
I got to end with this one, and I want to bring Mark Cuban in because he would love to be here.
Well, he's hoarding things.
But he couldn't
that?
be here today. So he did tweet, or X, or whatever you call that now. Got to be honest, the real Donald Trump EO on health care, and in particular drug pricing, could save hundreds of billions of dollars. I'm not going to make a drug point on that. I'm going to make my own point on that, which is it is nice to see somebody who doesn't like somebody give somebody credit for something they think that he's doing right.
Jeff, it helps his business.
What's that?
His business. It's literally what Mark's doing. Let's not give him credit for this motivation.
I'm going to put blinders on, perhaps, and say, really...
It's Holy Week. Come on, come on.
Right.
It's
I
Holy
am
Week.
serious about this, though. We don't... what gets me so pissed off is when people... Everything Trump does is wrong. Right. Everything Trump does is right. Neither one can be true. Some of what he does is great. Some of it may be baloney.
Can I just make one final point too, Jeff?
Oh, I know.
Back to what Lydia was talking about, manufacturing here. To me, there's a lot of hypocrisy in this as well, coming down to, because our biggest input cost is labor, and that's why it was so expensive to manufacture here.
Right.
And that is why Democrats, for example, will turn their head and allow Nike shoes to be made in a sweatshop so that they could buy their sneakers cheaply. I, for one, would say, and I don't like paying more for things, as everybody on this show knows, I pay more for the sneakers to know that that's not happening and people are not being exploited and that we are doing it here.
Okay, we got to move on,
What?
but I think we're going to keep...
All right, I'll hold my thoughts.
Okay.